Welcome back to The Explainer. Okay, today we are digging into something absolutely wild. A whistleblower has come forward with claims that the entire U.S. property tax system, well, it's not just broken. He's saying it's a multi-trillion-dollar house of cards just waiting to collapse. You know that feeling, right? If you own a home, you've definitely felt it. That envelope shows up, you open your property tax bill, and your stomach just drops. It's gone up again. And it's not just a little bit, is it? It feels like it's completely disconnected from inflation, from your salary, from reality. But what if there's a reason for that? A really big one.
Okay, so let's jump right in. We're looking at the claims from a whistleblower who says forget what you've heard about a hot housing market being the cause. He alleges that these insane tax hikes are actually the result of something much darker: deliberate, systemic fraud.
I mean, just look at these numbers. The source points to one single year, between 2018 and 2019, where some property values were supposedly jacked up by a whopping 30%. 30! Now compare that to the official inflation rate for that same period, which was only 2.7%. It just doesn't add up, right? The big question here is, how on earth is that even possible?
And that brings us to the man at the center of all this, the whistleblower himself. His name is Mitch Vexler, and he's a real estate developer. And you gotta understand, his argument goes way beyond just some fudge numbers. He's making a bombshell claim that our entire property tax system, the way it's set up right now, is actually unconstitutional.
So, what's the legal angle here? Well, this is the heart of his argument. Vexler points to the 16th Amendment, which says the government can tax income. Okay, simple enough, but here's the twist. Appraisers say they tax you on your home's market value. Vexler's claim is that this market value is really just an unrealized gain. It's potential money, not actual income you've received. And he argues that taxing you on money you haven't actually made yet, that's unconstitutional.
So if this is a scheme, who's behind it? According to the source, you have to follow the money. And it leads straight to school districts, who apparently raise a massive 83% of their bonds from these property taxes. The allegation is that the chief appraisers, the ones setting these values, are basically controlled by the school districts. And on top of that, school superintendents are accused of committing accounting fraud to make it look like they need more and more and more bond money.
Okay, so now that we know the alleged players, how does the scam actually work? Well, the source doesn't pull any punches. It's described as, straight up, a Ponzi scheme. Let's break down the step-by-step process that's supposedly fueling this whole crisis.
So here's the cycle, the alleged recipe for this scheme. Step 1, appraisers artificially pump up property values. Step 2, the school districts take those inflated values and use them as collateral to issue huge bonds. But here's the kicker, the final step that makes it all tick. The claim is that new bonds are constantly being raised for one reason and one reason only, to pay the interest on the old bonds. And that, Vexler says, is the textbook definition of a Ponzi scheme.
This creates what Vexler calls compound cumulative fraud. Think of it like a snowball rolling downhill. It just gets bigger and bigger. An inflated valuation one year doesn't just go away. It becomes the new starting point for the next year. So a bogus 15% jump this year gets another one stacked on top of it next year, and so on, until the value on paper has absolutely nothing to do with the real world.
All right, so we've seen the how. Now it's time for the how much. And you might want to sit down for this. The scale of this alleged problem is just staggering.
The big number is $5.1 trillion. Let me say that again, $5.1 trillion. And according to Vexler, that's a conservative estimate of just the fraudulent part of the school bond debt out there right now across the U.S.
And to give you some perspective on just how massive that number is, Vexler makes a chilling comparison. He says that if or when this house of cards comes crashing down, the 2008 financial crisis, you remember that, right? It will seem like a walk in Central Park, a non-existent blip. Wow.
And look, this isn't just some big abstract number floating around in the economy. The claim is that it's crushing real people in real towns. Let's take Argyle, Texas, for example. The alleged fraudulent bond debt there comes out to $343,000 per home. Now, the average home value there is $450,000. That means 76% of the home's value is tied up in this supposed debt. The source claims that homeowners are basically carrying a giant fraudulent second mortgage that they don't even know exists.
And that leads us to the real-world consequences, the potential human cost. According to Vexler's estimates,
This situation puts 42 million American households at risk. At risk of what? Bankruptcy, foreclosure, losing everything. We're talking about nearly 38% of all households in the country.
So, if the problem is really that big, is there any way out? Is there a fix? Well, the source proposes a solution, but it is radical. It's called a controlled demolition. The idea is to carefully take the whole system apart without causing the entire economy to implode.
It's basically a four-step plan. First, you get rid of property taxes. Just completely and immediately repeal them. Second, you replace that lost money with a single, uniform state sales tax. Third, you call in the big guns, the FBI, the Department of Justice, the SEC, to launch a massive fraud investigation. And last but not least, you assemble a team of financial experts to figure out how to manage the fallout from trillions of dollars in failing bonds.
Why something so drastic? Well, the source puts it pretty simply using the Humpty Dumpty analogy. The argument is that the system isn't just cracked, it's completely shattered, and all the king's horses and all the king's men can't put it back together again. It has to be completely torn down and replaced. So, where does that leave us? It's a huge question, isn't it? Are these claims the blueprint for the next and maybe the biggest financial crisis we've ever seen? Or is it a complex theory that's maybe blowing things out of proportion? One thing is for sure. According to the source material we've just explored, this isn't some far-off what-if scenario. The allegation is that this is the single most critical threat facing homeowners right here, right now.